Welcome to the Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Keren Eldad. Settle in. We're about to make you feel really good. Are you ready to take a deep dive into your finances, the ideal mindset for your finances, and the world of financial education? If you are in for a real treat today. Welcome back to the Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Keren Eldad, and I'm so excited to share today with you a true coaching master, Jean Chatzky. Jean is the CEO and co-founder of HerMoney Media, the host of HerMoney, the podcast, and a New York Times and WSJ best-selling author of multiple books, including Pay It Down, Age Proof, and The Difference. You may know her from 25 years as a financial editor of NBC's Today Show. But beyond these accolades and titles, I want you to know that she's the most trusted voice in personal finance, someone who made her mission to help us, people like me, make money and make money make more sense, and to empower us, especially women, wherever we are on our money journey. As Jean has said, if you want to own your life, you have to own your money. I truly agree. I've had the great privilege of knowing this incredible human for quite some time now, and I'm very happy to help you do just that. I'm thrilled she's with us. Jean, thank you so much for making the time to be here with us today.
Thank you so much for asking me. I'm honored, and it's always so much fun to talk to you. I just love spending the time.
I love spending the time with you too. You ask the best questions of any interviewer I've ever gotten to speak with.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Let's see if I can do you any semblance, any modicum of justice. I want to begin at the beginning. You've shared in tidbits and, of course, on your podcast that you grew up in the Midwest and that you were always working and always saving until college. And then in our last conversation, you also said that you were swept up by the culture of money and took a job that you maybe shouldn't have taken. Can you start there in the beginning understandings of money and in the contrast that is created for you there that basically starts to inform your mission?
Sure. So as you said, I grew up in the Midwest. My father was a college professor. My mother was in and out of the workforce. My mom was remarkable. She reinvented herself every time we moved to a new place, which was often. And we lived a very comfortable middle-class life. There was not a ton of extra money, but there was certainly enough for everything that we needed. And as a result, my brothers and I, we always worked. I babysat from the time that I was 11 years old, maybe 12 years old, got my first job at a summer camp at age 13, got a job fitting sneakers at Kelly Mike's Sporting Goods in Wheeling, West Virginia when I was in high school, and loved earning money and loved saving it as well. And it all felt pretty normal and manageable. And then I went to college. Mm-hmm. And I went to a college where there were a lot of incredibly wealthy kids. And I was absolutely swept up in it. I was swept up in the culture. I was swept up in the going out and the shopping and the buying things and the not thinking about money. And it came to a head, I think, when I graduated from school. I had spent my college years as building a journalist's resume. I wanted to be a journalist. I spent my free time at the school paper. I spent my summers doing internships at magazines. I got offered 2 jobs upon college graduation. One was as an editorial assistant at a magazine for $12,000 a year, and the other was in a retail management training program for $24,000 a year. And I took that job, which was just insane. I don't know what I was thinking, except I was thinking, oh my God, how much money is this? And it took me 3 months. It took me very, very little time to realize that I made a mistake. It took me 3 months to extricate myself. I had rented an apartment. I had bought a car. My parents took pity on me, and they they took this little red car and they made it their own, and they continued to make the payments, which was very nice of them. I moved back into the world of journalism, and karma is such a thing. I got a job for $11,500 a year as an editorial assistant at Working Woman magazine, and never really looked back, and never took a job for the money again. But I did continue to have problems with money while I was a young woman in my 20s in New York. I overextended. I got into some credit card debt. Took me a while to dig my way out. And if you were to put me on the therapist's couch, and I've been there, I don't think it's an accident that I do what I do. I think I do what I do because I wanted to figure out what was wrong in my own life.
And now you're offering it as a service to other people to alleviate their suffering, which is truly an act of generosity. And that's what real teaching is. It's what I've always loved about you. I've also loved, and I said this in our last meeting, Jean, how similar our stories are. I, just like you, took the higher paying dumbass job instead of the one that I actually wanted, that was more aligned with my soul. And that began my series of Faustian bargains, my series of deals with the devil at the expense of truly what I wanted to do. And I hope that that resonates with a lot of people, because many people who are listening right now are in transition, and they are starting to transition towards their heart's desire. And Jean is here to say, you should have done it a long time ago, and it's good that you're here. And let's begin where we begin. In this sense,
and I believe that the money will follow. I believe a couple of things. First of all, you realize that maybe you didn't need as much as you think that you needed, that because your soul is so much happier, because you are so much happier, that you're not trying to get happy by shopping. You don't need to do that when you are spending the hours of your day doing something that actually lights you up. But I also think that when you find your way to whether it's a profession or a vocation or a calling, when you find your way to that track, the money eventually will follow, because you're going to be good at it. You're going to excel. People will notice you, and eventually, if what you want is financial success, you'll find it.
in other words, instead of making this a binary choice between money or meaning, just understand that in choosing meaning, the money will follow. That is absolute law. I completely agree with you. And I think that more people should think about it this way. I grew up, as you know, my parents are immigrants, and they said that doing something you love is the privilege of the very wealthy. This is not something that's available to someone like me. And I beg to differ. I actually think that the only thing I've ever become successful at is something that I truly love. And speaking of beginning to really move into that dimension that you truly love, when do Wall Street and journalism kick in for you?
My first job in journalism was as the assistant to the business editor at a magazine that no longer exists called Working Woman. It was just the job that was available, but it turned out to be a good fit for me. Working Woman was a very strange magazine. I don't know if you ever had the opportunity to read it, but it had food, it had fashion, but it also had business and careers. And I was lucky that I just got put into the business and careers department, because that's where the open job happened to be. I was good in math. In high school, I liked numbers. They didn't scare me. And I really took to writing stories about companies and managing some money and stocks and personal finance, things like that. And when I left that job, I wanted to go to a business magazine. I wanted to go to a Forbes or a Fortune or Business Week, and nobody would hire me because they all thought Working Woman was a joke. And so I floundered for a little while, but eventually thought about the way that I would report stories when I was writing a business story. And I would call these people in Wall Street firms called equity research analysts. These are people who write reports about the prognoses of various companies. They run very sophisticated financial models to see if profits are going up or down. When you watch CNBC and you hear that Goldman Sachs put a buy on a particular stock, it's because some equity research analyst said this stock is a buy. I thought, okay, I could do that. I could go get a job in equity research, help these analysts write their reports and learn enough about business that I could actually circle back and get a job in business journalism. It wasn't an original idea. A guy who interviewed me at Forbes told me that I needed to get an MBA, and I didn't really want to go back to school, but I figured this would be enough of a substitute for going back to school that maybe I could eventually get hired. So I did that. Very easy job to get. I liked it a lot. I could have stayed, but a couple of years later, I went back and I got that reporting job at Forbes and have been in journalism ever since.
What incredible resourcefulness. Instead of doing it in the way that was not right for you, an MBA, which I've wasted tremendous amounts of money on, you really decided, I'm going to find this route. This route is very likely going to lead me to the next best step and then the next best step. And this is how the best, I think, of all careers are built. So that's just a tremendous story. By the way, do you know which magazine I started at?
Which one?
Cosmo.
Really? I wrote
Really?
some stories for Cosmo. Cosmo, when I was coming up, was a great place to freelance because it had a binder full of stories. I don't know if this still existed when you were there, but there was a binder full of stories for freelancers. And if they liked your clips enough, you could actually go into the office at Cosmo and you could sift through the binder and pick out an assignment and write it. And so I wrote some early stories for Cosmo.
That's tremendous. But I experienced the same thing afterwards. In other words, people didn't particularly take you seriously. But Cosmo has been a tremendous part of my original story as well, because it pivoted me closer and closer and closer to what I really wanted. And a hilarious aside that has nothing to do with this conversation, but I think you'll like, Jean, is a couple of years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, they interviewed me as a coach for an article called Make the First Date Great Again. And as part of my assignment as a coach, I had to go and demonstrate my own principles. And I went on 3 dates. The third date was Ryan, and he is my husband now.
That's unbelievable.
How
That is
about that?
fantastic. Wow.
So Cosmo and Working Woman, thank you very much. So can we pivot into your actual teaching now a little bit?
Sure.
You said that you start to discover that numbers can tell a story of their own. And you in Wall Street as this equity research superstar.
Equity research peon, but that's okay.
Close. Learned how to read balance sheets. What did you learn that becomes sort of foundational to what you create with HerMoney?
Interestingly, it wasn't the lesson that stayed with me most, and there were a couple of them, but one was that the numbers never lie. The numbers never lie, whether they are a company's numbers or your numbers. And if you want to understand what's going on in your financial life, you have to get really interested in and honest about your own numbers. What's coming in, what's going out, where is it going? Because unless you know those things, you have no power. You don't have the ability to change your trajectory. But once you understand how you're using your resources, then you can make conscious decisions about how to reallocate them in a way that makes sense for you today, tomorrow, and way down the road. So that was the first lesson. The second lesson was that there are times when you need help with this, and you should get that help. The world of money is kind of like the world of medicine. It doesn't have to be complicated, but sometimes you need somebody to help you make a plan to get healthier. I was the assistant to two different research analysts. And I remember walking into one of my boss's offices one day, and he said, I got to go. I'm going to see the financial advisor. And I said, why? Like, why do you have a financial advisor? You are a top rated research analyst. You are on institutional investors lists of the best research analysts. Why do you have a financial advisor? And he sat me down and gave me a whole lecture on, first of all, it's very different. But secondly, you should have somebody else paying attention to your money. And if you're a very busy person, as so many of us are, often the money slides, often the money gets put in the back seat, and somebody has to be paying attention. And I thought that was just fantastic.
These are very powerful and very important lessons that I'd love to underline. The first is numbers don't lie. Everything that we do in life is reciprocally receiving basically a validation from the universe. And the numbers are the clearest things. They're points of data. For much of my life, as you know, Jean, I was terrified of looking at the numbers because I knew I was not going to like what I saw there, right? It wasn't actually, I told myself I was scared. I wasn't good at math, blah, blah, blah. It's basic arithmetic. So I don't know what I was so afraid of. But what I was really afraid of most likely was that I was not going to like what I saw there. Do look at the numbers. They do not lie. And that number, knowledge is power, is information. And it's part of what you give to people, Jean. We're going to talk about that, but truly invaluable, just right out the gate. The second is you should ask for help. It's exactly like your health. And by the way, exactly like coaching. Many people are surprised to hear that a coach sees another coach or coaches sees therapists. I am living inside my body and I'm a mere mortal. Not only do things fall by the wayside, but I very likely am biased and not able to see myself clearly and objectively. In the same way, a financial advisor will likely put up a mirror to the truths that you have not been seeing or not been willing to see. So it cannot be more valuable. And that brings me to 2018, where you launch HerMoney to empower women, and 2019, which launches your podcast, HerMoney, which has been a huge success. I've been truly honored and privileged, and I say that from the bottom of my heart, to come as a return guest. Can you talk about the how and the why that brought you to this new ramp?
Podcasting was really coming into its own. And people who know me tend to know me from the 25 years that I spent on the Today Show, which is 25 years of telling people things in 3 to 4 minute bites. I have always loved my work best when I spend the day learning something, when I actually am out in the field reporting and looking at academic studies and talking to the researchers and figuring out what's new and different. Launching a podcast for me was the ability to have some of those more in-depth conversations about retirement, about money management, about careers, about your field, about how to improve your life, and to share those with a community of women. I chose women very intentionally because I go out, as you do, and I give a lot of speeches. And I have given a lot of speeches to rooms full of men and women. And I've given a lot of speeches to rooms full of just women. And what happens during the Q&A at those events could not be more different. When you're in a room of men and women don't ask their questions or share their stories or step up to the microphone. When you're in a room of all women, it's electric. We can't wait. We're much more open. We're much more honest. We're much more, I think, able to learn. And for me, that was the point. I wanted to build an environment where women could learn about a topic that is emotional and fraught and seemingly more difficult than it is, but where we put these walls up because we think it's hard.
Yeah.
And I felt like if the environment would be welcoming, it would just be easier to learn. So that's why I went in that direction.
I love that perspective. I also particularly love that angle, right? In other words, to foster an environment in which you can feel vulnerable and you are safe to be vulnerable and to learn. I also love you as the vehicle in the environment because you are so open about your own money mistakes, about credit card debt, about cashing out your 401k at one point, about ceding control to others, which unfortunately, like me, you also temporarily did. I think that's so important to see experts basically come at their expertise honestly and turn their mistakes into momentum. Would you say that's also part of what fueled it? I'm not trying to put words in your
No,
mouth.
100%. And also because I realized that there's not anything that difficult about
Yeah.
it, right? That I was complicating it in my own head. I might have shared this with you, Keren, at some point, but if I have, forgive me. I was out for a run, I don't know, 18 years ago now, when I realized that you could take everything that I talk about and you could boil it down to 5 things. And if you did those 5 things over and over and over again, you would be a financial success. And they were not simple things. They were just good habits, often repeated. I come at this. I was an English major in college. Yes, I was a good math student in high school, so I do have that. But I did not study finance. I got a C in economics. I came to this later in life when I realized, man, there are a lot of people making a lot of money by making this a lot more confusing than it needs to be. And so my 5 things, because I know you're going to ask,
Obviously.
you've got to earn a decent living. Right? There's no getting around that. If there's no money coming in, there's nothing to invest, there's nothing to save, there's nothing to build on. So somebody in the household, and I hope that it's you, is earning a decent living. It doesn't have to be outrageous to make you happy. It has to be enough to make you comfortable. There is a lot of research on money and happiness. Granted, if you are already, it's interesting. If you're already a very happy person, more money will make you happier. If you're not a happy person by nature, all the money in the world is not going to make you happier. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck and more money makes you more comfortable because it makes you able to pay your bills without worry, go on vacation once in a while, that's the secret sauce. That's the point at which money really makes a big difference. So you got to make some money. Number 2, you have to spend less than you make. And that's where people get into trouble. Because, and we get into trouble more now, I think, than ever, in part because money has become so invisible. It's all dips and swipes and clicks and very intangible. It's not the money that we kept in our wallet for so many years. So you have to pay enough attention so that you spend less than you make on a consistent basis. And there's a lot of technology that can help you do that. You have to, number 3, put the money that you're not spending to work for you so that it works as hard for you as you work for yourself. That's investing. We all have to be investors, starting with the retirement plans that we have at work, or if we don't have one at work, by opening an IRA or a Roth IRA of our own. That's a great first step. Number 4, you've got to put a protection plan in place so that a disaster can't take all of this away from you. And a protection plan has 2 parts. It's the right insurance, and it's a basic estate plan. So the right insurance is health. It's if you have dependents, life insurance. It's if you're the breadwinner, whether or not you have dependents, disability insurance. It's a big deal. It's expensive. Try to get it through work. And then in terms of an estate plan, everybody needs a will. Everybody needs a power of attorney that allows somebody to make healthcare decisions for you, and a separate one that allows somebody to make financial decisions for you. We should all have a living will that tells a doctor or a hospital if we want life support. And the will is the document that allows you to name guardians for minor children. So if you have a parent, and if you are a parent and you don't have a will, that just makes me crazy. And then number 5, I know I'm preaching to the choir with you. You've got to figure out some way to give back that is meaningful to you, because although more money doesn't necessarily make you more happy, giving back does make you more happy.
It's an energetic exchange too. I absolutely love your 5 tenets. You won't be surprised to hear that Keren is an A student.
Yes.
And it took me a really long time to get there. And it took me a long time to get there, made much shorter by masters like you. The way I think about you, Jean, is like probably one of my biggest heroes, Julia Child. What Julia Child, the great Julia Child, may she rest in peace, did was she made something very complicated, very daunting, very scary for a lot of people, not just cooking, but French cooking, simple by breaking it down step by step. Simple does not mean easy necessarily. I myself, upholding these very habits that you have outlined, P.S., including business insurance, which is pretty important for those of us who run a business, is something that takes time, that takes Sisyphic repetitive effort, but is 100% worth it. And all you got to do is follow those principles and it will work out for you. And even if it takes a lot of time to set up these systems, friends, this is going to be well worth your while. You know, just like Julia Child, how to make the complicated readily available and simple. And so it didn't surprise me when a couple of years ago, HerMoney expanded into coaching and advisory, rolling into the FinanceFixx, offering diagnoses for people, offering money makeovers for people. Why was that the next step, and what's exciting about it so far? It's been a couple of years now.
It has. My husband at one point said to me, besides the days that you spend reporting, you really love doing money makeovers. As part of my work on Today, and as some of the work I did on Oprah and Today on the television show Opportunity Knocks, which is on PBS, I get to do money makeovers. I get to swoop into the lives of real people. I get to look at what's going on, and I get to help them fix it in a way that's hopefully sustainable. I took my methodology and step-by-stepped it. And that became the FinanceFixx program. So we've got a FinanceFixx boot camp. That's a 4-week program that is designed to help you get a handle on your cash flows. You'll come out spending less, saving more, paying down some debt, and on the right path. We've got a pre-retirement checkup version of FinanceFixx. That's 6 weeks. So it's figuring out what your cost of living in retirement is likely to be and getting you on the right track to hit that. It's for people who are generally about 5-10 years out from retirement. Mm-hmm. And then we've got InvestingFixx, which is the investing club for women that I run with Keren from CNBC. And we are helping women learn to invest, to pick stocks, to build a portfolio. We're doing it live online on Zoom every other Monday night.
Gosh, I love it. I can't believe I've not joined to that yet. I will. And I'm going to make sure that we link these 3 offerings below, because I know that everyone out there could absolutely use this. This is just a very incredibly useful forum and format that makes this practical and helps you change your life, because I don't think anything changes your life more than owning your money.
For FinanceFixx, we're actually running a special. It's if your listeners use the code FALL25, we'll give them 25% off.
That's incredible. I'm going to link that below. Thank you. That's very generous of you.
Sure.
Thank you. So looking back, the path kind of zigzagged for you, but I think for most teachers it's like that. And then you look back and it all just makes sense, right?
Well,
What do you hope to what can you share with our listener who's zigzagging right now?
that the best things in life happen when you zigzag. The best things in life happen when you just go through the doors that open. I had been on the Today Show for a few years when I got a call from another contributor to the show who had a speaking engagement that he could not make. And he said, "Would you give this speech?" And I'd never given a speech in my life. I was petrified. But he said, "They'll pay you $5,000." And I was like, "Well, yes, I will give this speech." And I went and I gave a speech, and now I give a lot of speeches. But I walked through that door and I also discovered I really liked it. The same thing happened when I wrote my first book. I got a call from a publisher. "Would you like to write a book?" I had never thought about writing a book. I wrote a lot of articles, but a book was a book. And it turned out to be another part of my career that I have really, really enjoyed. And so I think that the mistake that we make sometimes is that opportunities present themselves at every turn, at every corner. And sometimes we get so scared that we just think, "Oh, I can't. I that's not me. I can't do that." Push yourself just a little bit and see if you like it. You don't have to do it again if you don't like it, but you might discover something that you really love.
My first coach ever said to me, "Keren, why don't you just say, I wonder what I can just get away with?" In other words, don't put so much pressure with the outcome. Just give it a try. See what you can pull off. That I could be on board with. That helped me a lot. And your perspective has lended a lot of people, I think, a tremendous amount of courage and an ability to be there where the luck happens. Of course, the best way to be prepared for luck happens is having enough money to sustain a real risk. So I'm very thankful that you came here. Thank you so much for sharing with us that money isn't just daunting, isn't that scary, that you can help people make this practical, and what your mission has been in teaching this to other people. I truly, truly appreciate the integrity from which you teach.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the Coach Podcast. To you who are listening, I hope you loved this conversation. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to our show. It really helps us to continue to bring you the best quality content. And of course, if you're called to it, leave us a review as well. I hope you'll join me next time on Coached so that we can continue to explore the best teaching on the planet, the mastery and the integrity and the mindset that's available to you. Stay coached.